This is a Tesla vehicle that the world was not ready for, but it's also the Tesla vehicle that the world needs more than anything. We all saw the future this month, but most of us just don't know it yet. First of all, why does it look like that? So yes, on one hand, the Tesla Robovan could be considered the strangest looking vehicle since the Tesla Cybertruck, and it is unusual, that's for sure, but the more I look at it, the more I think it actually doesn't look that weird at all. A lot of the impact of this vehicle comes down to its styling. Black and gold is not a typical color scheme for a vehicle, not recently at least. Back in the 60s and 70s, you would have seen gold cars with black accents more often, but it's generally considered a little too bold, bordering on tacky. If you look at Jeff Goldblum playing the god Zeus in this new Netflix show, they give him a black and gold wristwatch paired with a velour tracksuit and these high fashion glasses to make the character appear visually as over the top as possible. Now, I can guarantee you that the reason Tesla chose this gold tone for the Cybercab and Robovan was to make sure that they do not look like any other car you've ever seen, unlike anything on the road today. It's an anti-trend. Even that gold paint applied to the sidewall of the tire, that's there to enhance the visual strangeness. And strange is not always bad, but it can be jarring at first, and that is the point here. Also, light bars. We are just starting to get used to seeing cars with a light bar at the front or the back. Now, here comes the Robovan with 5 light bars that wrap around the entire body. Aesthetically speaking, we have to use the rule of odds here. One light bar would look silly, it wouldn't be enough, unless it was just one big chungus light bar, but that would also look bad, so you can either do 3, 5, or 7. 5 was the correct choice. But more than anything, it's the lack of exposed wheels that makes this thing look so weird. It instantly triggers your brain into thinking that this is some kind of spaceship or hovercraft or a vehicle that belongs in a movie, but not in real life. Basically, same effect as the Cybertruck, just even more extreme this time around, because with the Cybertruck, your brain could at least make an analogy to a regular pickup truck, just with a different shape applied to the body. While Robovan looks like it was designed by a space alien who had never seen a van before, and that's the point. That's first principles design. And of course, this is all functional as well. It's not done just for the sake of being weird. That skirt around the bottom is going to make this vehicle incredibly efficient and aerodynamic. Let's take a look at another reference here, the modern NASCAR race car. Notice how the front and side extend almost all the way down to the pavement. Tesla has just taken this functional design concept to the extreme. Here's a crazy theory I saw on the internet. I didn't come up with this, but I think it makes sense. Tesla could use that skirt to create a negative pressure vacuum underneath the Robovan that would help it stick to the road surface. You've probably never seen this car before. It's called the McMurdy Spearling. It was just reviewed by Top Gear the other day, and it's the fastest car in the world, not just in a straight line, but around corners as well, and it accomplished this by using powerful fans that create a vacuum underneath the car and suck it down into the road surface. Combined with an aerodynamic body, this gives the car an unprecedented amount of traction, downforce, and stability in all driving conditions. Now, of course, the Robovan wasn't built to go racing, but maybe it was designed to go around corners at very high speeds on a very narrow roadway. Boring Company tunnel? Hopefully this is starting to make sense. We know that the Boring Company has long since abandoned that idea of putting the cars on rails or powered tracks like what we saw in those very early renderings, which is going to make the tunnel much more practical to build. But now it means that the potential speed of travel is limited by the vehicle's ability to navigate curves. Looking at the Boring Company tunnel plans for the city of Las Vegas, there are several curves that the vehicle will be required to navigate. Some of them are pretty hard turns. With a Tesla Model Y or even Model X, that's not a big deal because they handle very well, but with something as big and tall as this Robovan, it might need some help. One way to think of this is kind of like a decentralized Hyperloop. Instead of creating a vacuum environment throughout the entire tunnel and trying to get all of the air out with a giant pump, we focus instead on getting the air out from underneath the vehicle with a relatively small pump and create a localized vacuum that would still allow the vehicle to travel much faster than what would be physically possible without the vacuum. Jumping back to the real-world environment, where this continuous skirt design might still appear totally useless, it's not. It actually makes the Robovan much safer. Not necessarily for the people inside, but for everything else around it. With the wheels hidden and the body extended all the way down to the road surface, it becomes impossible for the Robovan to run anything over. If you get hit by a car, you're going up over the hood. That sucks, but it could be worse. If you get hit by a truck or a bus or a van, you're going underneath, and that's the last place you want to be. It probably is the last place you'll ever be because you'll be dead. Autonomous driving AI, if it works as intended, should make it very unlikely that the Robovan will ever hit anything or anyone, but it's not impossible, and with a high volume of these things on the road over a period of months and years, the probability of a collision becomes 100%. It will happen. And when we start to think about these vehicles out there in the real world, driving on real streets, that's where things get really interesting. The Robovan may have played second stage to the Cybercab at Tesla's big event on 10/10, but that's only because the Cybercab is going to be a lot easier to build and roll out in the short term. The Robovan is the actual long-term solution to transportation that Elon Musk is talking about. Okay, hear me out. Cybercabs are a great short-term measure to introduce the concept of autonomous travel, but they actually run the risk of making traffic worse if they get too popular too fast. When your average driver or Uber rider chooses a Cybercab instead, that is a good thing. It maximizes the efficiency of travel. But if a bunch of people who would typically be riding a train or a bus start hailing Cybercabs instead, now we've got a problem. Imagine we take the 50 people inside a 40-foot long bus that's occupying the dedicated bus lane and we put them all in Cybercabs. We've just created an exponentially larger footprint on the road. That's not going to help. But the Robovan is too small to be a bus. I don't think it is. Here's something to consider. Why are buses so big in the first place? The extremely large size of a bus, especially something like a double-decker or an articulated bus, only serves to make it less efficient, less versatile, and significantly more dangerous for anyone inside or outside of the vehicle. The reason that we historically kept making each bus bigger instead of having multiple smaller buses comes down to two key factors. One is drivers. Not everyone wants to be a bus driver. It's not a bad job, and in most areas it pays well, and we're not going to get into the neoliberal education system's obsession with demonizing blue-collar work, but the fact is that the supply of drivers is limited. So we have to maximize the amount of work that each driver can perform, and that means maximizing the size of the bus. But even if drivers were infinite, or buses could drive themselves, we run into factor number 2, maintenance. Historically, each bus comes with a diesel engine and a transmission. Those require a lot of maintenance and upkeep, and that requires mechanics, which is another job that not everyone wants to do because reasons. So now also we want to maximize the amount of work that each engine and transmission can perform, and that also means making the bus as big as possible. Now, if we were to eliminate the driver and eliminate traditional maintenance, then there's really no good reason to make the bus so big. If we take our standard 40-foot city bus, that's going to come with 44 seats plus room for people standing, which means we would need at least 3 Robovans to replace that capacity. Tesla is accurate about each van fitting 20 passengers at maximum. Now, we don't know exactly how long the Robovan is. It's definitely longer than a Cybertruck, which is 18.6 feet, but the van isn't a whole lot longer than a pickup. Point being that Robovans will still make a larger footprint than buses, but the difference would be negligible compared to moving 50 people into individual Cybercabs. Also, consider that buses already have dedicated lanes on the road and transitways and other infrastructure that is designed to reduce traffic congestion. This kind of infrastructure would also be best suited to autonomous driving because it reduces the amount of variables that the AI needs to deal with, and it keeps the Robovan driving on the same route all day, every day, maximizing the AI's ability to train and perfect the operation. And that is just solving the transportation problem. As Tesla already illustrated in their new images for the Robovan, it can do pretty much anything. Food truck, RV, school bus, delivery van, mobile service vehicle. You could have a mobile office in there, or a mobile studio, or a mobile home even. I don't think it's crazy to say that the potential market for this Robovan is larger than any other vehicle Tesla has created, even more than the Cybercab, because the Cybercab only does one thing, while the Robovan can do almost anything for almost anyone, and it solves a very big and expensive problem while doing it. You might think you want your city full of Cybercabs, but you don't. Actually, you want Robovans. Anyway, that's my theory. The future of Tesla is hiding in plain sight. Most people didn't notice, but they will eventually.